I'm Michael York. The automobile as we know it today was not invented on a single day by any single inventor. But we can point to a couple of breakthrough moments in history when it comes to the production and selling of cars. In America, Henry Ford invented an improved assembly line and installed the first conveyor belt-based assembly line in his car factory in Ford's Highland Park, Michigan plant around 1913. That assembly line reduced production costs for cars by reducing assembly time. Ford's famous Model T was assembled in just 93 minutes. A few years later, the very first automobile auction would occur, with the very first auction taking place in South Carolina in 1938. For over 70 years, this industry within an industry has grown to become an integral part of the automotive marketplace today, the auto auction. Today, almost 10 million vehicles are sold each year through member auctions of the National Auto Auction Association. So we thought it might make for an interesting trip to take you, the viewer, inside the world of auto auctions, to see the role that these facilities play in the lives of consumers and dealers as well. I'll be joined by special guest Lynn Morgan, Vice President of a national auction chain, and by Frank Post, General Manager of a major market auction in the Dallas, Texas area.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Frank.
Good to see you.
Yeah, well, thanks for being with us here today. And here we are at the wholesale auto auction. Now, we're going to talk about a lot of things today, but let's start with that one. What is a wholesale auto auction?
Well, a wholesale auto auction is where dealers, new and used, come together to trade inventory, buy their inventory to put on their lots, or if they've had the car too long, to bring to the auction, to sell at fair market price, to sell it, get the money, and then go try to buy something else to put on the lot.
So now, how would I know, even if I'm paying attention, how do I know what this guy is saying?
Well, actually, the auctioneer is not saying anything. It's called word fillers. I call it the yabba dabba doo. He's not saying anything. But if you listen in between all the yabba dabba doo, you'll hear a number: 26, 27, 28, now 9, 3,000. You'll hear that. You'll catch it. Or you could cheat and just look up at the plasma TV and it'll tell you what the bid is now and what is the next bid to be accepted.
Now, there's a perception or whatever you want to call it out there that only problem vehicles are coming to auction.
Yeah, that's an old wives' tale. That's what people actually think and what have you, but believe it or not, this is where most of the dealers get all their inventory that come from. They can't trade for enough cars to take care of their inventory to sell on the lot, so they come here to buy their cars to fill up the lots for the empty spaces because they're not selling new cars or they can't find any anywhere else.
And Lynn, let me ask you now, where are those cars coming from? What's the source of these vehicles?
Well, Mike, that's a great question. The vehicles really come from a number of sources. They'll come from manufacturers. They'll come from dealers. They'll come from rental car companies that are trying to replenish some of their fleet. Vehicles that are coming off lease, banks are a source. So the source is pretty broad, but the exclusive buyers are the dealers that Frank spoke about.
Lynn, one of the things that people might not be aware of is sort of the rigorous process, the inspection, evaluation, the checklist, if you will, that auctions go through when a car arrives.
And that's a really important point, and it's an important piece of the whole process at the auction. So when a vehicle comes into an auction, there are condition report writers, inspectors that work at all of the auctions across the country, and they go through a rigorous inspection on every vehicle. It's over 100 different checkpoints that they will look at when they're inspecting a vehicle, so that the buyers of those vehicles know exactly what might be wrong. It's an opportunity for the auctions to actually do some work to make the condition of the vehicle even better. So it's an extremely rigorous process. There's a lot of consistency that's been adopted throughout the auction industry to make sure that the buyers know exactly what they're getting and that these cars are as nice as we can possibly get them.
So in essence, Lynn, as a driver, maybe I'm not exactly where I need to be on the 3,000-mile oil changes, or I got a belt that I know probably should have already been changed. When a car comes into the auction, all that's brought back up to speed.
That's right. We take care of all of that for you. So if we see that we need to have an oil change on a vehicle, or there's something that needs to happen to bring that vehicle up to a new standard, all of that happens at the auction.
And even the vehicle inspection reports, I mean, that's that's very important for the consumer to be aware of.
That's right, and vehicle history reports too. Those come along with most of the vehicles that are brought to the auction. So there's a lot of information that we already have about a vehicle, and there's a lot that we can do while the vehicle's here to make sure that we make it as nice as possible. Every vehicle is inspected so that the seller first knows what they might want to do to repair or improve anything about the vehicle that they want the quality to come across when they're selling the car. At the same time, it's information about that vehicle that helps the buyer know everything about the car prior to any work potentially being done. And in some cases, the vehicle won't need to go through the body shop. Right, the inspection will be so clean that it just gives the buyer that much more confidence in purchasing a quality vehicle.
And that's really what we're seeing right here. Is a lot of these vehicles. I mean, these are new, nice vehicles. These are vehicles that are never going to see the body shop.
Well, and you've got a lot of different sellers bringing in a lot of different types of vehicles, right? So you're going to have some that have very low mileage, that have no damage to them, and all they need to do is get cleaned up. They might just need a wash and a vac, and they're ready to go. In some cases, there may be some things that need to take place, but the point is that all of that's identified up front, and the auction is able to accommodate all of those services from the front all the way until the day that vehicle is ultimately sold, and can provide very, very high quality work so that these vehicles are in the best condition they can possibly be in.
Okay, so while every car certainly isn't going to see the body shop, every car that comes through here is going to see the detail shop. They're going to get cleaned top to bottom.
Absolutely. I mean, nobody wants to buy a dirty car, right? So the detail shop is here to clean the car out first and foremost. If there's anything that's left in the vehicle, give it a great wash, a buff, and really make it appealing when it runs down the lane for the buyer that's looking at purchasing that car. If you think about selling your home, right? You're going to cut the grass and you give it a fresh coat of paint if it needs it. It's the same thing here, and not every vehicle is going to need as much as the other, but they all need to sparkle when they run down the lane.
And then, Frank, at some point, it's all about the engine. It's about the mechanical and making sure that these cars are running their best, and that's what we're having a look at here.
Yeah, when they cut through, the inspector checks the car out, and if there's something that he's not real sure about, the car's not running the way it should be in his opinion, it gets then turned to the mechanic, and he puts it on the computer to get it checked out and find out what's wrong with it, whether it be from the AC to the transmission to the engine itself, or maybe it just needs 2 tires or 4 tires or whatever the car may need. We can do all the little minor repairs to it.
Frank, Lynn, thanks for allowing me to spend some time with you today. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, Michael.
If a public perception about auction cars still leans toward junkers, clunkers, and cars nobody wants, our trip inside the ropes shows really nothing could be further from the truth. Auctions add value to both the transaction process and to the vehicle itself. To the transaction process, auctions provide a secure and neutral setting for the transfer of vehicle ownership at fair market prices. And to the vehicle, auctions contribute condition reporting, reconditioning, title work, and more. It's easy to see by our visit here. The auction industry is an elaborate network of sophisticated businesses and individuals who work together to keep the exchange of used vehicles and used vehicle information moving in the marketplace. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michael York.